What's going on, everyone? Benjamin Nowak here, and I'm super stoked to bring you this video because I'm partnering with Monster Bass to give you guys an exclusive discount of $15 off your very first Monster Bass box. Now, whether it's the Regional Pro Series box or the National Series box, you can get $15 off your first subscription box using code BEN15. And I'm going to have a link down in the description below. You're going to click on that, enter code BEN15, and get $15 off your very first Monster Bass box. And this came about because I had done an unboxing for Monster Bass of the October Midwest Series box. Rick, my boss, watched it and was like, dude, that's awesome. You need to give your viewers an opportunity to get the box for $15 off. So that's what we've done. If you guys are interested in checking it out, like I said, link in the description. Use code BEN15 at checkout and get $15 off your first box. But without further ado, let's get into the unboxing. What's going on, everyone? My name is Benjamin Nowak with Monster Bass, and today I'm going to be doing an unboxing of the October Midwest Monster Bass box. And as you guys can see behind me, hopefully, there's a ton of colors. It's smallmouth season, it's football season up here in the Midwest, and these fish are starting to chew. So there's going to be a lot of smallmouth baits in here. There's going to be some really exciting baits that have never been put in a subscription-based box before. Some really cool things are going to be coming in this month's box. So without further ado, let's get into this thing and show you guys what kind of baits we got. And first thing first, you're going to always notice your bait card and a sticker. Now, I'm not going to go through the bait card because, well, I'm going to show you guys the baits, and I'm going to walk you guys through how I would throw these baits, where I would throw them, what I would be using to catch fish. Now, the home run bait, the bait that I'm super excited to show you guys, is the Spro Rock Crawler. Now, this is a tried and true crankbait. When you're cranking during the fall, you're bound to catch some big fish. So I'm glad that we included a crankbait. I knew it was a necessity to include a crankbait, especially for those smallmouth fishermen and those largemouth fishermen in the fall, because they eat a crankbait. They like to eat moving baits. They're trying to feed up and get fat before that winter push. So this Spro Rock Crawler is going to get the job done. It's a 4 to 8 foot diving crankbait. It comes in the spring craw color, which I really like because it has that chartreuse side, brown back, and orange belly. Looks just like a bunch of different types of forage, whether it's crawfish or perch. When the water gets a little bit off color, you can use it to imitate a whole bunch of different types of forage with just this one bait. Now, I'm going to be throwing this on a crankbait specific setup. So a 7 foot to a 7'6" medium action crankbait rod, bait casting setup, and I'm going to throw it on 12 to 14 pound test fluorocarbon line. One thing with crankbaits that's really unique is you can control their diving depth based on the pound test line that you're using. If you want it to dive deeper, use lighter line. If you want it to dive shallower, use heavier line. So you can control, that's why it says 4 to 8, you can control how deep this bait dives depending on the line that you're using. Now, moving on, the next crankbait in the box is the Norman Lures HDDD. So this is a heavy duty deep diver, which means you can cast it a long ways, which is important for cranking for smallmouth because you want to get that boat or that bait as far away from the boat or the kayak as possible, or the bank, and it dives 11 to 17 feet. I'm going to throw this on that same cranking rod, and for those of you guys that watch the Bassmaster Elite Series, Stetson Blaylock was fishing this bait and caught a ton of big fish. I believe he finished second in that event, and he was fishing the Norman HDDD in that tournament. So it's a tried and true bait, catches big smallmouth and largemouth, works up here in the Midwest. The next bait is a largemouth specific bait, quite frankly, and that is the Savage Gear Bluegill. Now, this is a bait that when you get it out of the box, you're going to say, man, that's a big bait, like I don't have confidence throwing it. What's so cool about this bait and getting it in the fall is that bass will chase and eat this size bait. A lot of times throughout the year, fish get finicky and they don't want to eat those bigger baits, but in the fall, they're just looking to feed up really heavy. The bluegills, the bait fish starts to push shallow, so this is that perfect size to imitate all the bluegills and all the bait fish that are pushing shallow. So don't be afraid to throw this bait. It's a little bit bigger, but if you want to get out, chase those really giant fish that are pushing shallow, this is going to be a great way to do it. I'm going to fish this on a little bit bigger bait casting setup. Basically 7 foot to 7'6", medium heavy or heavy power rod, and fast action. Basically just your standard action bait casting setup. I'm going to fish it on 15 to 20 pound fluorocarbon line, or you can fish it on braid, and I'm going to be fishing it shallow. So I'm going to be looking for areas where there's creeks pushing back up into cuts, or there's shallow water areas where those big bass are going to be hanging out, is what I'm going to be throwing that on. I'm going to use like a 6-4-1 or a 7-speed bait casting reel for that bait. The next hard bait in the box is the Strike King Bleeding Bait Buzz Bait. Now this is a 3/8 ounce, and what I like about this bait is right here at the nose where that blade is, it actually has a cone. when this grass starts to die off, it starts kind of matting up shallow. This cone's gonna help this bait from not getting weeded up and keep that blade spinning. It's gonna kind of deflect that grass and those weeds away from that blade. Allow that bait to be fished really shallow, no matter what kind of cover vegetation you're fishing. And you can use it for smallmouth as well. That chartreuse red looks really good, and smallmouth just hate chartreuse, as I already mentioned. So really good bait, smallmouth or largemouth. Rather than go in order, I'm going to show you guys the trailer that I'm going to pair with that buzz bait. And this is the Bite Grub from Catch Co. Outdoors, or Catch Company Outdoors. And I'm just going to rig this on the back of that buzz bait, just like that. It's going to give it a little bit extra bulk. It's going to kind of help keep that bait up in the water. And that's a really good tip for you guys when you're fishing a buzz bait, when you're fishing something you want to keep up in the water column. Put a trailer on it. It's going to help give that bait some lift, keep it up in the water, and it's going to help that look like a little bait fish coming right across the top of the water. That's why we included these grubs. You can also fish these on a standard jig head, and it'll catch big smallmouth and largemouth as well. But I like to rig it on the back of that buzz bait. That's where I'm going to really find that most effective. The next bait in the box is the Crunchers Baits tubes. If you watch my channel at all, you know that the tubes that I throw are Crunchers Baits, and this is your standard smallmouth style tube. This is a, I believe this is called the Shiz, and it's one of their most popular colors. It's my favorite color that Crunchers makes. But if you guys want to go catch big smallmouth, take this tube, rig it on a jig head, and go fish it. You can fish it on a spinning rod, bait casting setup. It doesn't matter. Just rig it with whatever size weight you need so that bait is on bottom. So I typically use a 1/4 or a 3/8 ounce tube head inside of there, and I rig it with that open hook. So it works best if you're fishing around sparse grass or open bottom where that bait's not going to really get hung up or balled up in that grass. So Crunchers Baits tube, I'm going to be fishing this. You can fish it shallow, but my favorite place to fish it is at 8 to 10 foot range, sparse grass, rock piles, anywhere that those fish are going to be staging up, feeding up, getting ready for that fall push. And those big smallmouth, typically this time of year, are going to be in the 8 to 10 foot range, starting to look to feed. And that looks like those little gobies, or the little bait fish down there on the bottom feeding, and those big smallmouth are just going to come and smash that thing across along the bottom. And yeah, it's a great way to catch big smallmouth and largemouth bass. Now the next soft plastic bait is the Big Bite Baits College Craw. The College Craw is an awesome jig trailer. Now this is basically how I'm going to use this bait, is on the back of a jig, but the color that came in my box is black, blue with red flake. One thing that a lot of people don't think about when they're fishing a craw style trailer is that these craws, when they molt the last time, they'll get that really dark and blue, and this is going to be a perfect imitation on the back of a green pumpkin or a black and blue jig. So I'm going to rig this, probably bite off the first 2 sections, thread it up out of that jig, and it's going to be a great jig trailer. Now you can also fish a Texas rig. My buddy Alex Epperson fishes it basically on a really light Texas rig, swimming it through the grass. But I'm typically going to fish this on a bait casting rod with a jig on the back of a jig trailer, and that's how I'm going to rig this bait. And finally, the hooks that came in this month's box are the Stand Out drop shot hooks. So what you'll do is you'll tie it off to this little loop here, run your line through this, and it will always stand straight out off of your line. It's going to help you have an awesome hookup ratio when you're fishing a drop shot bait, which is another great way to catch big smallmouth and largemouth during the fall. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little unboxing for you guys. If you have any questions or comments, let us know in the comment section below. I'll be down there responding to each and every one of you. But I hope this helps, gives you some idea of how to fish these baits, what to fish these baits with, how to use them, and how to be most effective on the water. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. So I hope you guys enjoyed that unboxing of the October Midwest Series box. Tons of awesome baits and tons of really cool things coming. Next month, the November box, we're gonna have a River to Sea bait that has never been featured in any other subscription box, so I'm super excited to bring that to you guys. We also have an iCast Series box coming in December and a Strike King exclusive box coming in January. So some really cool things coming. If you wanna get your first box for $15 off, please go use code BEN15. Get $15 off your first box. Try it out. It's an awesome box with a lot of great name brand products, hand selected by guys like me, so that way you guys can go out and catch more fish. Also, unfortunately, you guys, I have a lot of Canadian viewers. We don't ship to Canada yet, but it's something we're working on, so stay tuned. But all you guys from the States, go get $15 off your first box using code BEN15. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Take care. Tight lines. God bless. Pursue passion.